Well, hello and welcome to our backyard garden in the South Carolina upstate. It is Sunday morning, April 6th, 2025. This is our 8th episode of the season, and it's a beautiful day. Sort of partly cloudy skies, and it's supposed to rain later on, maybe even some thunderstorms, and high is supposed to be in the upper 70s, so just beautiful. It's about 70 right now, perfect time to see our garden. I'm going to start off here with our snapdragon that's growing right up out of the concrete. I cleaned this up. It was looking a little sloppy last week, but this is the most successful snapdragon that we have in the entire yard. Amazingly, it gets full sun, which helps, but you think, okay, you want good soil. This thing's growing up out of concrete. It's amazing. And then over here, I'm guessing, because we did not plant any of these, just seeds from last year have grown up into this area. And I did a lot of weeding back in here and then spraying, so we're starting to see that clear up. I've really worked hard on this bed, where our irises are really starting to come out now. Beautiful bearded iris. The white ones that came out initially officially have finished up now. Yesterday was their last day. These down in here are the white irises, and then the upper half of the bed is the purple ones. And these will last for probably another, I'm guessing, 3 weeks or so. But we had a lot of holly plants growing up out of this bed. This was all holly when we moved in, big bushes that were up to the windows and then some. But I'm not a fan of holly. They're very invasive, and they really don't offer a lot other than just greenery. They're low maintenance, but they're a pain in the neck. And they are as sharp as roses when you try to deal with them. Now, strangely enough, we're having a real parasite problem this year. You see on the irises here, I use the term aphids kind of as a generic term. Nothing is really hurting these plants, but a lot of them are covered with these bugs. So we're going to have to do more spraying to try to kill some of that stuff off. Same thing here. These little pink colored bugs. Don't know what they are exactly, but they're everywhere. And we really have not seen that before on these irises. So the only thing that has been different was the cold winter. So sometimes you get changes in the climate, and new pests will appear, old ones go away, and it's just part of nature. So our spring bed pretty much finished up. All the hyacinths, all the daffodils long gone. Our hydrangeas are really leafing out, though. These, as opposed to the ones we have in the front yard, will give us white flowers. These seed pods that are left over from last year are representative of those. Those will be coming out in another couple of months. Then we have Asiatic lilies down through here doing really well, and a lot of digitalis, which should be starting to bloom fairly soon. I shouldn't say bloom, but starting to put out flower buds. I'm going to say probably May, another month or so before we really get any flowers. We got lilies down in here all coming up, doing well. We've got these shrub arbustos back here. They'll give us some little tiny white flowers that turn into little tiny blue berries, probably in another month or so. It's a variation of a viburnum, technically. And then here we've got just kind of a random clematis growing up with a nice purple flower on it. More lilies, butterfly bushes. These give bright purple blooms when they kick in a couple of months. And then back here we have a lilac that's completely in bloom, very fragrant, and these are great. I have a total of 3 of these in the yard, and I've put them all in shady areas. They tend to do better overall in the north than in the south. They don't like full sun or tremendous heat. So I put them in the shade of these huge evergreens, and they've done very well. They've grown nicely, and they're putting out some nice flowers. So I've got another one that we'll see in a few minutes under the deck. Here we have a beautiful, or what will be a beautiful knockout rose, lots of buds on it. This will be bright red, and then these clematis are getting ready to open up. These will be bright white, so you're going to have red and white seemingly on the same plant, even though we've got two separate plants growing together. It was very impressive last year, so I'm looking forward to that. Looks like we've gotten a few Monarda that have kind of seated themselves down here. That should be interesting. We've never had that in the backyard before. And then this viburnum, it's the only one we have in the backyard. This is more typical of what we were seeing in the front yard. Now, if you watched our front yard video, we have several viburnum out there, and most of those are only putting out about 3, maybe 4 flower clusters like this. This one has at least 10, if not 12, and this is more typical of what we have gotten in the past. So I'm just kind of guessing that the cold winter had something to do with that. Got daylilies coming up here, some more digitalis, more azaleas. These are getting ready to open up pretty soon, and we'll have a lot of purple flowers before long. A stilby down here doing really well. These are just the dead flower, or dead seed pods from last year, but these will be putting up beautiful flowers probably in May. It's kind of a late spring flower. And we have our camellias here. I keep calling them gardenias, but these are actually camellias. We have a gardenia in the front, and then several camellias back here. I keep making that mistake, so correct me when I'm wrong. Appreciate it. Still a lot of cleanup to do back in here. Some of the branches are still on the ground from when Hurricane Helene came through here at the end of September. And again, more of the azaleas, and we've got some hostas back here kind of at the end of the line, and then just woods back in here. We've got clematis here, another couple of azaleas, a lot of daylilies starting to come up back through here, a lot of climbing roses and some jasmine. And then as we get back up into this area, this is a daisy that'll it'll bloom late in the season. Some more lilies here, irises of course, and then this big knockout rose. This is the one that the beavers ate down to the ground last year, but it has come back with a vengeance, and we should get some really nice bright red flowers very soon, because the thing is covered with buds. So that's been one of our most successful plants in the entire garden. Clematis back in there starting to bloom. This area is up against the fence is just a big mix of clematis and jasmine and climbing roses, which we'll talk about in a second. This is the other camellia, just kind of finishing up now. One flower still over here. This is the best that the camellias have done so far. They were producing flowers for about 6 weeks. Usually it's just maybe a couple weeks, and a lot earlier. They were really suppressed by the weather, but they put out a lot for us, a lot of color, which has been very, very nice. Here is our, of course, our trellis is absolutely covered now. And if you look closely, this one single climbing rose will be putting out thousands, literally thousands of little tiny pink blooms very soon. You can see all these buds on here, and pretty much every branch has that number. So when I say thousands, I'm not even exaggerating. It will be very impressive, especially up on the top of the trellis. And then we'll have pink on the right side. Left side will be red, We have a lot of red flowers up there. Looks like this camellia is still opening up, so we're still going to get a little bit of color off of this one. Nice tea rose here. This one always gives us some sporadic flowers, even though it usually is kind of struck with black spot. Has a real problem with that, but still doing very well. Got a nice sort of melon colored rose here, just blooming kind of out of the blue. And back in here, I did some work back here over the weekend. You can't really see it, but there were a couple of trees, actually 3 trees that were growing up in the middle of all this. A couple maples and something I couldn't identify. I ripped all those out just so that they didn't get out of control. And of course, you'd look at this and say, well, it's out of control as it is. And you certainly could make that argument. But that's when you have a fence like this and jasmine and things that are viney, it tends to get out of control very quickly. But sometimes that can be a good look. Another camellia flower here, just opening up. But I think this will be the last week for those. Got a butterfly bush here that is has been out of control. Last year it took over a huge chunk of the garden. We may want to chop that back, but it does give us some beautiful bright purple flowers when the time comes. And then we've got clematis over here. This is an area where we did a lot of just a planting garden. We brought some zinnias and a few other things in here, and they did very well. So far we have not gotten to that, and it's really kind of a weedy mess at the moment, so we're going to have to do a lot with that and then get it mulched and start over again. Got clematis here, and then we've got some clematis growing up against the fence over here, sort of in combination with the weeping cherry, which still has a few flowers on it. Try to show a few of those. Yeah, right there. This has done very well this year. Last year it didn't really put out a whole lot of flowers, unfortunately, but it did well this year. And then we've got our wisteria over here. Interestingly, I say this all the time, but we have a lot of wild wisteria in this area. If you look in fields along the roads and along railroad tracks, you'll see these big hanging purple things from about the last week in March through just about now. I think this week will kind of end that, but the one we have, which is more domestic, blooms basically a full month later. So you get kind of that double peak. This plant actually at this point is kind of hard to see because it hasn't really gotten all of its leaves out. They're just starting to come out, but in another couple weeks we should have some really nice purple flowers. And then down here is an area we haven't really done a whole lot with. I just got started with the spring cleanup yesterday, and this side is just kind of a mess. A lot of junk that rolled in from the hurricane when we were flooded up to about 4 feet over our normal level. So I haven't done anything with this side. Yesterday I came through and cleaned up this side, and it looks, I think, a whole lot better. Got the all the debris blown out into, kind of blow it out into the pond, and then it just floats away and eventually gets eaten by whatever. You still see some of that debris here, but it's not a problem. This pond has been doing very, very well in terms of cleanness and clarity. The water is pretty clear right now. You can see down to the bottom, and there's a whole ecosystem here. One of those ecosystem parts I'm going to show you right here. Got a Canadian goose family. The father is out in the water, the mother is on the edge. I take it back. There's more going on than I realized. There's a duck right there. He just flew away. Actually, a couple ducks. We got a whole family of ducks there. Usually they aren't aren't there. Maybe they're helping to protect the mom. Anyway, the mother is right over here in this bed of flowers. You can see her there. She's got a whole nest of eggs. So maybe they're all helping to protect her. I don't know. Meanwhile, the father swims out looking for any potential predators. Now, last year we went through this, and unfortunately something got to the eggs and broke them before they had a chance to hatch. But we do get some predators in here. Our neighbor said they thought they saw a coyote in the yard at one point. I don't know how a coyote would get here, but we certainly get beavers. We get I've heard of foxes. Foxes would certainly be a problem with eggs, but in any case, don't usually get a chance to show that kind of stuff off. Now over here, we do have one more. I mentioned the white irises that had already finished. We have this one. This is the last one. No, I take it back. There's another one next to it. This will be the end of those, I believe. But we're going to have a lot of daylilies out in here, and then black-eyed Susans later on. But I did my best to kind of clean this up so it would look a little better. You have no idea how many other little trees and various plants were growing up through there. And you can start to see some clematis on this side too. Nellie Moser and various other types. We have about 5 or 6 different types of clematis. Same thing here, doing very well. But this walkway here is being gradually encroached more and more by the roses, and it's getting harder to walk through here. So we're going to have to do some rearranging at some point to keep this from just getting completely closed in. Jasmine in here, those are always expendable. You can cut those back. They grow so fast, they'll take over. But it's a nice look. It's a nice place to come on a hot day. You can get some nice shade there at this point. And so we're going to come back over this way. We have several clematis that are growing up on the fence. No flowers yet, but they'll be coming before too long. It's taken several years for those to get to the point where they look that healthy. I have a wisteria here, which has been, it has struggled throughout its life. I don't think it's going to last. We have a couple flower buds, but overall it does not look real healthy. And then we've got our tea olive here. Still has a few little white flowers and the faint scent that's fairly pleasant. I did some cleanup here on the side of the house yesterday. We've got a bunch of hostas. I think it's 8 all along the course of the edge of the house. But all of this is going to get mulched this week. And we've got our roses coming up. Lots of buds on these, so we should be getting some color pretty soon. Irises in the back, they're getting ready to open up soon. This yellow knockout is already open. Got some beautiful flowers here. Those will get bleached by the sun pretty quickly. And they'll lose that bright color, but they're for the moment they're absolutely gorgeous. Still got a lot of weeds in here. Still, this is an area we've not done much spring cleanup on because this is more of a summer bed. We don't get a whole lot going on in the spring outside of what I've just showed you, the early roses and the irises. But we'll get to this at some point. Now, one area that does work out in the early spring is right in here. We have these clematis growing up on a lilac. Now, the lilac, for whatever reason, has not really done very well. The plant itself is healthy, a lot of greenery, but it's put out very, very few flowers. In fact, this year I'm not seeing any flowers at all for some reason. But the clematis are doing very well, and there are many more buds still to open, so looking forward to that. And then just to the left, we do have a different species of lilac that is fully in bloom, doing very well, and has that characteristic lilac smell, which we all like. Well, most of us like it. So that's doing really well. Big hostas back in here. Those were there when we bought the house, one of the few things that was here. And we don't really have to do anything with those. They just keep coming back year after year. Lots of daylilies through here, some more Asiatic lilies. We'll eventually get some tomatoes coming up through here. And then another one of these pink climbing roses. This thing is now almost all the way up to the second story. Massive plant, probably the single biggest plant we have in the yard. And again, thousands and thousands of these buds that will be opening up soon. So we'll have lots and lots of pink flowers very shortly. Got coreopsis here, these bright yellow flowers. We should have some lilies coming up, and Jenny is starting to germinate some marigolds and zinnias and some other things that we're going to put in the yard. But I finally got to this area, got all the debris out, sprayed for weeds. The weeds are slowly dissipating, but I'd like to get this area cleaned up so it looks a little nicer. But there was still a lot of debris from last year's crop of cleome, which do make quite a mess. Same thing down in here at our fire pit. I got this all cleaned up over the weekend, and so that's looking a little bit better. So a lot of work still to be done. I need to spray for weeds, and if you can look up there, we've got storm clouds on the horizon, so I'm not sure when the spraying is going to be best done. But in any case, that's our garden for right now, and hope it's sunny wherever you are. And until next time, happy gardening.